Hello, everybody, and welcome to LFC Transfer Room Saturday night stream. We are discussing the centre-back market tonight and the positions of need, really that most fans would want us to delve into. And one of those is the centre-back. So myself, Matty and Colin are going to dissect all of the centre-backs, hopefully, that you suggest, but we brought a couple to the party as well as a few existing ones whose futures are perhaps a little bit up in the air. Tonight on the Saturday Night Club, I am joined once again by my good friend Matty. How are you?
Not bad. Missed the footy already. Quite excited for the Euros, to be honest. Just with more footy back on it. Watched the City game. Actually happy that United won, surprisingly, just so they can't do back-to-back doubles. And I'm very excited for the Champions League next week. How about you, Rich?
Yeah, all right. I'm also quite glad. I hate Manchester United winning. I think tonight they even tied the major honours with us. So we can still say we're the most successful club in British football, but we're joint as well. I think that's on 69 major honours each. However, the double-double's never been done, has it? And to deny Pep with 115 charges against his name, it didn't really hurt me too much that it was Manchester United who won. And also it perhaps gives Ten Hag a little bit of breathing space too, because let's face it, they're never going to really win the league when Ten Hag's in charge. Colin, how are you? You okay?
Yeah, it's great to be with you guys. Doing great today. Also, feels like we've been missing the footy for longer than we have already. It's been a week, and I'm ready for the new season now. We just get that started. So, happy to be talking about all of it, and thrilled that we have some exciting. We still do. The Euros are great. I can't wait. I'm so excited, and literal highlight of my summer is Liverpool coming to Pittsburgh. So I've got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, that is going to be class, mate. That's going to be
exciting.
So cool. I noticed that you obviously have been colour coordinating today, and you've dressed the same. I'm really upset that I didn't get the memo to dress in green. So we're going to start on a bit of a negative, really, by leaving me out. I do feel a little bit left out.
But you get wearing it, Richie.
Yeah, I did go John Barnes though. I did go John Barnes at least. But yeah, not happy that you both obviously have been speaking behind my back and colour coordinated yourselves.
Yeah.
Let's talk then about the centre back option, and I think there does have to be a little bit of an addressing Konate, because there were lots of things flying around about whether or not Ibrahima Konate, if a decent offer, and I'm talking profit. He signed for Liverpool for 36 million from RB Leipzig. I think a decent profit on him if an offer came in, people are saying that they would accept him, and that's mainly not because of his ability, because I do generally believe he's the second or third best centre back in the league, but playing 50-60% of those games alongside Van Dijk really does cause a little bit of disruption. And when we need a Konate, it seems like sometimes he isn't there. I mean, Matty, if a £55 million bid came in for a Konate, what are you doing with that bid? Because I think it's a pretty tricky question. And for everyone else, there's over 450 of you already. We've only been live for 3 minutes. So please, if you are watching, please do put your comments in as well, because I don't think it's as simple as, keep or sell. I do think there's a conversation to be had. And that conversation starts with you, Matty.
I'd laugh at them, to be honest. I rate Ibru very, very highly. I think he did drop off a little bit last season. But I don't think he was ever fully fit, because we somewhat always seem to rush Ibru back. And I think the benefit of Quansah's rise will mean that we don't need to rush Ibru back when he does pick up them niggles. I think he'll always get the niggles, but I would never, ever sell him. I think he's a French international centre-back who we've got to be realistic. In the next 2-3 years, we're probably going to lose Van Dijk. And I think having someone like Ibru, who's been around, say, under the Klopp era, he's played in a France side that's reached World Cup semi-finals, could very well win the Euros this year. I'd keep him. I don't think there's any amount of money that would tempt me into selling Konate for me. I think he is got the potential. I think we forget as well, he's still very young. He's like 22, 23, isn't he? So I think, don't get me wrong, if someone come in with like 100 odd million plus offer, I think Michael Edwards would sell him because that's just Edwards' philosophy. But this whole injury record, I know loads of fans talk about that, but like Paul's mentioned it there, but the benefit is we've got Quansah coming through. So if our future of having Quansah and Konate, who are both under the age of like 25, we're set as a right centre back for like 5-10 years. So yeah, Quansah might go on to be our starting right centre back under Slot, but we're playing in the Champions League, which has got more games now as well with this new format. So having someone like Ibu or someone like Quansah, whichever one becomes the second choice right centre back, having that as your backup is valuable to me, I think. And there's just no money that I would sell Konate for. I think he's quality.
Okay, I think that's a really well balanced argument, and there's a lot of people in the comments. I try and pull up all of the comments as well, agreeing with you. Colin, what's your stance on Ibu Konate?
Similar to Matty, I love him. I think his ceiling is incredibly high. I mean, his injury concern, his injury record is a real concern. I don't think that there's really much denying that or kind of putting that off. I don't necessarily think that is a good reason to move on unless the money has to be right. I think you have to be able to replace someone of his ceiling with the money that is returned, and someone who has the amount of international football played at such a young age, so many important games played at such a young age, especially for center back. He's got a solid 10 years left. Center backs do peak later. The hope is that you can just kind of get those injury concerns under control. We'll get on to it. I think there's very few people in world football who have the ceiling that you could replace him for let's say it's £50 million. I just don't think that there are a lot of people that have that same ceiling who are going to be able to be purchased for that amount. So it seems backwards to me to sell without having that person ready to come in.
So I slightly agree with Paul here. Availability is more important than ability, and I said I've never doubted Konate's ability. I think he's absolutely sensational, especially when playing alongside Van Dijk, but actually especially when he's covering for Trent. Like his pace, his recovery pace is what Trent thrives on. That's what he needs. He needs somebody to be able to get across and to cover him. But for me, I'm just absolutely sick of Liverpool Football Club under the Klopp era being a rehab centre for the likes of Thiago and Jota and Matip and Konate has added to the list, and Naby Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain. And again, there's nothing you can do with injuries. There's not. It is just how it is. You could go out for a 5K run and tear your hamstring. That's just, it does depend on luck. But with Konate, it does seem, last season he missed 8 games. The season before that was 15. The season before that, 24. The season before that was 38. So in fairness, it is
not many last year. It's improved.
No, that's what I was going to say. In fairness, it is getting better. From 38 down to 24, down to 15 and down to 8. So it is getting better. But I just think it's just such a shame when, I don't know, I'm sure every team has to deal with injuries now more than ever. The amount of games, the amount of pace, I just want a fit Konate, and I just get very frustrated when he's not fit. And I think if someone came in with 55, 60 mil, I personally would be accepting it, as controversial as it is. And that's purely because I just don't want injury-prone players at the football club. And
for me, though, I get where Paul and what you're saying, availability is more important than ability. But if you cast your mind back to, say, 10, 15 years ago, Stevie G had about 2-3 years where he was severely injury prone. And I would have liked to have seen some of our fan base's view on that. When Stevie had them bad few years of injuries, what people have sold him. And I like what Haley was saying as well, the amount of injuries across the board this season. there's so many games. So players are going to get injured when they're played week in, week out. And like where Paul's saying, Ibu spent the last 5 games on the bench. I think that was pretty much because the season was done. So why not give Quansah them 5 games to back himself? And if anything, it's now got him into the Premier League England squad for the Euros. So it's benefited. Konate was probably always going to be going to the Euros with France. Quansah has now elevated himself into the England contention in them last 5 games where he become unbelievable. And I don't think we should sell him, because I think if you sell, like what Colin said, if you just to sell Ibu for 50, 55 million, what's out there really that can come in that isn't going to then hamper Quansah's developments? So for me, having Ibu, yeah, he may get injured 15 times next season, but then you've got Quansah getting 15 first team minutes, whether that be in the Premier League, the Champions League. So then he's elevating as well. So for that reason, I'd keep him. I mean, if we didn't have a good backup right centre back, I'd probably be saying, yeah, maybe we could consider it because of the injuries. But him being injured is then giving Quansah a chance to continue developing, and eventually Quansah probably will be the first choice right centre back. And then Ibu is then your backup, and he's a world class backup. He's probably in the top 10 centre backs in the world, to be fair to Ibu on his day. He's had a few bad games towards the end of the season, but his confidence probably hasn't been there really either. He's come in and established himself as the first choice right centre back because of Matip's injury, and then Quansah's had such a good season, he sort of found himself second choice again. So his confidence has probably took a hit, really. But I think if Liverpool were in contention of winning the Premier League this season, we might not have seen Quansah for them 5 games. I think we might have seen Ibu and Quansah rotating, to be fair. I think Quansah only played just purely to get his minutes up, and it's worked because he's now on the radar of Southgate, to be fair to the lad.
Yeah, and listen, talking about Quansah, you know, it's one of those that this time last season, we were saying that we needed a centre-back because you can't rely on Matip, and, you know, we're having the same issues with Konate. And Jarell Quansah's come from absolutely nowhere and saved the club 40 to 50 million pounds. You know, he's been an absolute revelation this season, and he looks so calm and he looks so cool and he just looks at home. For me, I think he was the most improved along with Harvey Elliott for Liverpool Football Club this season. I mean, Matty, you touched on it there. Quansah came in at the start of the season, didn't he, for Matip, and he said, I need to make sure that my position is secure, or Matip's injured, so now I need to make this my position. And a few people got on, you know, social media or wherever it was and was like, oh, it's disrespectful to Matip. But I loved it. I was like, no, good. Go out there and make that position your own. And he absolutely has, hasn't he?
Yeah. And I'm shocked, to be fair. I watch a lot of academy football, and Quansah wasn't someone who stood out and you think, wow, he's going places, him. And when we go to Bristol, I know he was working under Joey Barton, which isn't exactly brilliant, but he was good, but not like the level we've seen from him. You could probably argue that there's maybe only 1 or 2 centre-backs in the league that you'd play ahead of Quansah in the right centre-back, and that's not even like Liverpool bias. He genuinely is that good. His rise has been phenomenal. He starts the season 4th, 5th choice centre-back and ended the season 2nd behind like him and Van Dijk were the starting centre-backs, and I think that's fair to him. He's been absolutely unbelievable, but I do think if we played him every week next year, he'll get injured. The only hope I'm hoping for next season is we bring a doctor in finally, and I think that will help our injuries. Like, we haven't had a doctor for like 4 seasons, and we've had like 4 seasons of injuries, and there's no surprise when you don't have a club doctor. And I'm not the biggest fan of Chris Morgan myself either. I think wherever he's went, injuries have followed him, but he did save Stevie's career. So there's so many like ifs, buts, and maybes in the centre back position, really. But Quansah's one real shining light, and although Elliott deserved Young Player of the Year this year for Liverpool fans, I wouldn't have been against Quansah getting her over Elliott, because I think his rise is phenomenal. To go from playing League 2 football last season to bossing the Premier League and bossing Europe, that's astronomical, that rise. And even in the academy, he was good, but not that good.
Yeah, and I think, you know, with Quansah, nobody expected that. Absolutely nobody. And it was like he's all right when he first came in. Oh yeah, he looks good. You know, like we do with Clark and like we do with Jayden Danns. Like, oh, okay, yeah, he's a good player. But he was doing it week after week after week. And like you say, Konate's form did dip. But let's be honest, I've only seen him a handful of games since he's joined Liverpool where I didn't give him a 7 out of 10. So again, those things are going to happen, and especially if he's not first choice. He's he's under a bit of pressure. Liverpool's defence last season was pretty atrocious anyway, so I don't hold any blame on Konate for that at all. Colin, with Jarell Quansah making the England team, do you think he's one of those who stays in that England team, or do you think he's one that perhaps gets cut? I personally, I'm wearing an England shirt, but I personally think that he should stay. I generally think that he should. I think the likes of Duncan, Guehi deserve to go before Quansah.
I would agree with you, but that just means to me that Gareth Southgate is definitely sending him home. Like, if it's a reasonable thing to do, it's like, wow, that young kid's been unbelievable. We should not take him. I would think that I would. I guess my only like pump the brakes with Quansah is that I just want him to. I want a consistent rise from him. I'm really afraid of him peaking at like 22 and hitting a bad run of form at like 23 and not knowing what to do with that. I would rather him just take like very incremental steps to like improving his overall game and just building and continuing upward. Obviously there are ups and downs in anybody's career, but game to game or when you look more micro, it does go up and down. But like, I just want to see the trend line continue upward. This year has been so incredible for him. His performances have been unbelievable, but I just want, like, I would love nothing more than just really consistent 7 out of 10 performances from him. So like whatever gets us to that outcome, like that's what I am most hoping for. Of course, you do get a little worried about with international football, like especially young players. You don't want to overexpose them. I don't want him to play too many games. So selfishly, if he is not picked, like it's not the end of the world for me. I think even, if anything, that probably will make him more mad and more motivated to make sure that the next time he's picked for an England squad, that there's no chance he's ever going out of it. I would take him over Dunk probably any day of the week. I think Guehi's really solid. He plays more on the left side though, if I'm correct, I believe.
Yeah.
So, and I guess it depends a little bit on what kind of formation that Gareth Southgate is going to, cook up this summer. We'll see if he's
hopefully not 5 at the back. I don't want to turn it to the England and Southgate show, but if he plays 5 at the back with that attacking prowess that he has,
can you imagine playing 3 center backs and 2 wing backs with all the attacking potential that the team has? That's just as like, that would be so him, honestly.
Yeah, it would. And listen, I would not even drive or catch the plane. I would literally run myself to Germany to squat knot him, to literally grab his tie and pull it down really hard and just say, "What are you doing?" Paul makes a really good point, actually, Matty, and it's a question directed at you. Who is more talented, Quansah or Colwill? Because actually, I think this time last year we were looking at Colwill and saying we'd love to grab him from Chelsea, but I don't think he's had the finest season in his standards. So it's a good question from Paul, and then we will move on from Quansah.
It's a tough one, really. Quansah's had a very good season, Colwill's had a poor season, but I think with Colwill, it's just purely being in that Chelsea side. I don't think it's a very good side. I think there's a lot of toxicity running through it. We've seen from players the backlash when they've sacked Poch. I think the club's just a little bit ruined, to be honest. I don't think Bowley knows what he's doing. And I think that's just affected a lot of players. There's players there, like you look at Mudryk, he's a very talented player, but he's been really poor at Chelsea. Colwill, you don't look how much Brighton missed Colwill this season. That's the best way to analyse Colwill, I think. Although we had a very poor season at Chelsea, I think if he weren't there or he was at any other side, he'd improve. If Colwill was at Liverpool, I think we'd be talking about him being potentially one of the best in the league. He's definitely got that talent, but then so's Quansah. But it doesn't really matter because one's a right centre back and one's a left centre back, so they're completely different positions, really. But I think Quansah has got the potential to be Van Dijk level by the end.
He looks like that, doesn't he? He does look. He's calm. He's composed. He's so good on the ball, and he can throw a challenge in as well. I've been nothing but impressed with Quansah. I think he's been phenomenal. And also Colwell this season, he has been playing that position. He's been playing at left back, hasn't he, a couple of times as well, covering for Cucurella or Chilwell. So he's not had the best of times. I still expect, Levi Colwell to really kick on and do well. Let's talk about another centre-back then. Someone who is still at the club, but he was out of the club last season. He was over at Mainz, and that's Sepp van der Berg. He's been turning a lot of eyes, actually, and, people over the socials and the club itself have been really impressed with his loan spell, and that's essentially what the loan spell was for. Because this kid, again, it feels like he's been here for a while, because obviously we signed him after winning the Champions League, wasn't it? I think we signed him after winning the Champions League. He's still only aged 22. All right, he's obviously Dutch. He's actually born in Zwolle, which is the club that our new manager, Arne Slot, played for. So, there's a little bit in there. And actually, he's done really well this season. I've been keeping my slight eye on him. I wouldn't say I've followed him religiously at all, but I have been keeping my eye on him, knowing that we should really be looking for a centre-back in the summer. Do you think that Sepp, Matty, could do what Quansah did for us, this season, and actually save us 40, 50 million and come into a team that is only going to benefit from a Sepp van den Berg's centre-back prowess? He's a right-footed centre-back. We know that we would ideally like a left-footed one, because we've got Quansah and Konate and Virgil there. But again, is he a player that could perhaps fill the void?
I think he could do a job average, but I don't think he'll stay, because he's going to look at it and think, well, Quansah's ahead of me now, Konate's ahead of me. I know Matip's gone, sadly, who was a right centre-back, so we probably are going to need someone there. But we're talking about a lad who's played week in, week out at Mainz, and he's had that taste for first-team football. And I think he said in an interview as well that he wants them first-team minutes. Now, Van den Berg's not going to play week in, week out at Liverpool. I don't even think he's plays as the rotation. I think it will be Konate and Quansah, and he knows that. So I think I agree with Paul. I think if an offer comes in, we'll sell him. I think the season last year will elevate his value significantly. I think you're probably talking 20 million, 15, 20 million that you could probably get for Van den Berg. But I just purely based on his interview talking about how he wants to be playing regular football, he's not going to get that at Liverpool. Maybe this season, when we was in the Europa League, would have been his chance to get some minutes and stake a claim. He's got all the credentials to be a world-class centre-back. Klopp was thought very highly of him. But I just think because of Quansah's rise, we probably won't keep him, because if Quansah hadn't rised this much this year, you could probably say, put him in as the backup to Konate, so he's got a chance. And I think he would have took that to have backup minutes to Konate, knowing he can get injuries at Liverpool Football Club. He's not going to get a bigger club than that in the world. But because of Quansah's rise, I think he knows he's probably third choice. So I don't think he would stay himself. So he probably will. He probably will depart. But I think 15, 20 mil, which is good, because if you would have sold him last summer, you're probably getting 10 million if you're lucky. So Michael Edwards is back. We could probably even get 25, 30 mil from him. We got that for Jordan Ibe, who now plays for Ebbsfleet. So I do think he can probably get some decent longer for him. And that helps. We know Liverpool don't always have a massive pot of money. So, but with everyone we do sell, we can reinvest that money back in. So you could go and get Sepp gone for 20, 25 million and use that money elsewhere. I think if he was a left-footed centre-back, he'd have more of a chance, because there is only rarely Virgil in that position. But yeah, he's had a fantastic season. He's made a claim to potentially come back and play, but I just think Quansah's better than him. And I think that will be what stops it. I think the club would like to keep him as depth, but I don't think Sepp would stay as depth after playing a full season week in, week out for Mainz.
The only issue with Sepp is if we do sell him, Mainz has a first option purchase clause to retain Van Berg for a sum to believed less than €5 million. So if we accepted, there you go. Look, he's read my mind, Heliel. So yeah, thanks for that. if if we accepted 25 million, let's just say from Real Madrid, and Mainz offered, I think it's 4.5 million euros, we have to accept their bid too. So it would then be up to Sepp to pick and choose where he goes. So again, it's not necessarily a release clause; it's a first option to buy, which again means if we accept a bid for another club, then we have to accept Mainz is 4.5.
There's ways around that, though, like, for example, I don't know, Aston Villa come in for him. You could loan him with an obligation to buy for 20-25 mil next year. There's ways around, I suppose, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure Liverpool, if they would happily cover Sepp's wages for the year and then sell him at a bigger profit. I'm not sure how again, it's down to him, isn't it? He might say, actually, no, I want to go and play my football in Mainz. I want to go back. I want to go to Germany. So it's a bit of a tricky one when it comes to it. But listen, in terms of stats, over the past year, he's been pretty phenomenal. He's in the 99th percentile of aerial duels won. Wins on average 5 aerial duels a game. Clears 5 times a game if I'm rounding up to 0.05. So he's in the 84th percentile there. Finds himself in the 98th percentile for blocks. He has had a very, very good season, Colin. And I agree with Matty. I don't think he's ever been Liverpool standard, if I'm honest. But then again, we were probably saying this time last year about Jarell Quansah, and look where we are now.
Yeah. I actually have been on the Sepp Vandenberg train since about halfway through the season. Could pull the receipts from the chat and I've been tracking him ever since. He's been the best defensive player in a really poor Mainz team. They've not been good. And pretty much if you go through his whole stat pack, pretty much every like questionable stat or like questionable concern can kind of be attributed in my mind to the fact that he plays in a team that does not have the ball ever. They don't play up the field. He is really, pinned in, and like you said, headers 99th percentile. Like he's doing a lot of defending. If everything was equal, I think he is exactly the profile of someone that we would want for squad depth. Still, I think with a still very high ceiling. Again, he is only 22. He's 22 and a half. He doesn't turn 23 till December. 6'4", has gained, great amounts of athleticism. And I, to everybody's points, yours, Maddie's, the chat's like, if he's played a whole season at Mainz starting, like, I can't really fault him for being like, no, I'm not going to be the fourth or fifth choice center back at Liverpool. Like I'd rather go start for Mainz or, another Bundesliga team or whomever it might be. I can't blame him for that, but I still see a high enough ceiling that he can be an important squad player for us. It would be disappointing for me to have signed this kid at like 17 and to really like taken a lot of risk in sending him out on a lot of loan and really like investing pretty heavily in his development, and then just to kind of offload him for, like you said, if Mainz, if nobody else is in for him, if they get him for like 5 million, like that seems like kind of a waste to me. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think with the current management, I think they really could get, if another team's management is not so smart, I think they could probably get 25 for him. I think if it's more like 15, 17, 20, that's pretty reasonable. Like that's good return on investment. We did our jobs with him, like keep him moving. But if everything else is equal, if he's willing to stay, I think that's the kind of person that you keep around for a reason. I think that's the reason that you sign him. The reason, if you see that's kind of ceiling for him, the reason you sign him at 17, he's played a lot of football for someone who's 22. I think that there still is a lot of good, coming forward for
him. Helio makes a I don't know, not a tongue-in-cheek comment at all by any means, but because Nat Phillips was sensational for one season. Again, I can see Nat perhaps winding down his contract. The bloke's on £60,000 a week. So I don't think he comes into the centre back.
Why did we do that? That's so much money.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't blame him. Again, cannot blame him for like wanting to be like, no, I'm just gonna stay and get paid. Like, it's cool. But like I think that's a reasonable question that Hilaire asks, is like, you know, similar-ish situations. But Sepp Vandenberg is, to me, the much better player. I think especially this past season at Mainz is really evidenced of that. Every game that I watched where he played, I was like, yeah, like if he can take the next step, he could play for us. And you know, whether or not that happens, I'm not going to. I certainly won't. I'm not betting on that, but I think it could. And you know, worst case scenario, we cash in, and that's great to me too.
Yeah, and I don't think that Phillips is going anywhere. So don't you know, hold on to your horses yet, because no one else is going to be paying that £60,000 a week. And fair play to Nat Phillips. He earned that contract. Him and Reece Williams. I think he came better off though than Reece did. Liverpool today have been confirmed to be in the market for a centre back by what's known as the transfer guru Fabrizio Romano, and then we can expect a number of signings this summer. With that being said, you know, we have been also linked today with Leny Yoro, and that was by Damasio, along with a couple of others actually as well. He's one of the most sought after prospects over the past 12 months. He's only 18 years old. He's currently at Lille. Liverpool do face competition from PSG, Madrid and Manchester United. And obviously we've always been linked with the likes of Goncalo Inacio, Hincapie and Pacho in recent times as well. But Leny Yoro is an interesting one because he is young. He does fit that FSG profile of being 18 years old. He is right-footed. He is 6'1", and he has been playing. You know, he had a really breakthrough season this season. He played 32 games, scored 2 goals. But more importantly, obviously, his defensive attributes. You know, he does find himself in the 61st percentile of interceptions. But apart from that, if we're just looking at stats alone, and we don't do that, we do the eye test, obviously, but we can't watch every single football match there is known to man. You know, his stats aren't great, but at the same time, I write nobody off at centre-back when we've seen the rise of Quansah that we've all mentioned beforehand. You know, the fact that these clubs like PSG and Madrid, you know, the high-profile clubs are interested in this young centre-back, it does give you good vibes. And I think he's available for around about 55 million euros. So, you know, around about 45 to 50 million pounds. You know, he's really good with the ball at his feet. All right. You know, really good in terms of taking people on. He's like a little bit of a Joel Matip in terms of he's not afraid to run at players. He's not afraid to carry the ball forwards and try a forward pass. You know, that's what we want. Don't want centre-backs going sideways or backwards all the time. We want our centre-backs going forwards. So, again, with Leny Yoro, boys, is it, again, he's had one breakthrough season. We are talking about an 18-year-old. Do we need a Leny Yoro? Do we need someone who can play alongside Van Dijk as well as Quansah and Konate? Or is this perhaps a little bit of a, okay, well, listen, he's a great superstar and he might be a great superstar, but he's not what Liverpool need right now, Colin?
I kind of think that he is almost exactly what we need, which is maybe someone who is not expectant of first team starts, someone who is maybe excited to sit behind someone and learn and really train for when his moment comes. Obviously, he's put in performances and put in work that is indicative of a level that he can, you know, really develop into one of the great center backs in world football. But, you know, again, 18 is so young, especially for a center back. I kind of think that it's almost ideal. I don't expect that you would get someone who would demand to be playing. And And frankly, I think if you walked up to Virgil and were like, "No, I'm better than you. I should be playing." I don't like. I probably wouldn't want that person anyways. Not that he doesn't have to push him. Not that you don't have to, at some point replace, look for that long-term replacement. But I just don't know that. The more I think about it, the more I'm kind of convinced that like bringing someone in who is, at their peak at like 25, 27 and being like, yeah, here you go. You are like, you should expect to play. I don't know how that goes for like team development and for like fostering a good environment. To me, it makes more sense to bring in someone who's very young and hungry and excited to learn and take their time with it.
Yeah, I think you might raise some really good points. No one's going to shift Van Dijk, I don't think, after the season that he's had at that starting position. So maybe we do need to look at the youth to get bled in, like Quansah has done from Matip in the first instance and then Konate. Matty, talk to us about your French football knowledge. I know that you are very knowledgeable across all of European and world football. What have you seen of Leny Yoro this season? And, what do you rate him as a Liverpool prospect at the moment?
As a player, I rate him very, very highly. I think he's a huge talent. But I don't think he comes to Liverpool, to be honest with you. I think we need to remember that Lille are owned by a certain Jim Ratcliffe. And so if Manchester United want Leny Yoro, they've probably got a better chance of getting him than us. Although we are a better side and United is a bigger project, I think Ratcliffe isn't going to. We seen this last year, didn't we? With was it Thuram or is it Thuram?
Yeah,
The other player last year.
Lilian Thuram, yeah. Not Lilian Thuram.
Kefren. But I just don't think he'd sell to us. We seen that last year when we tried to get him. He weren't interested in improving Liverpool, especially now he is the United owner. He's not going to sell as a player who he knows will improve us. And again, he's a right centre back. We've got. Oh, he owns Nice, not Lille. I thought it was. Oh yeah, I'm wrong. I'm miles off. But I just don't think he'll come to us anyway. I think he's more of a Real Madrid or United buy, purely because we're going to look at that right centre back role and think, well, why would we go and spend 50 million on someone who's not starting every week when we've got Quansah and Konate? Now, I do think he has probably got a better potential than Konate. But again, it's a huge risk if we were to then sell Konate and bring in like Leny Yoro. We've got an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old as our right centre back option, so it's crazy. I know Matip departed, but I can't see us going and bringing in a 50 million pound player to be that right centre back. I would personally like us to go and get Castello Lukaber from RB Leipzig, who can play left centre back and right centre back, who has Champions League experience. Had another fantastic season at Leipzig. A very, very good ball playing defender. Has similarities with his ball playing actions to that of Van Dijk, Matip. I think he'd suit the side more. Because I think a lot of fans forget we do have Joe Gomez as well, who can.
I was just about to jump in, actually. I unmuted myself and was like, we're also forgetting that Joe Gomez can play. I personally think his best position is upright centre-back. Yes. And I know that he's Austin Healey'd himself, for those who know rugby. Austin Healey was an absolutely phenomenal rugby player. But his biggest Achilles heel was he was that good. He could play numerous positions and he never managed to nail down one. It's one of those that with Gomez he is the best. I think, apart from maybe Konate, right centre back alongside Van Dijk when Konate's fit. But it's just the fact he can play left back and right back. He doesn't play in those positions.
Yeah, so like if you look at the right centre back option there, like you said, you've got Quansah, Konate, and Gomez. Do we need a right centre back? Probably not. Where if you go and get a player in like Lukaber, who can play left centre back and right centre back, then that covers injuries in both aspects. He's only 22 or 21. If he was to come in, he's then learning from Van Dijk for 2-3 seasons before Van Dijk departs, and then he then becomes the starting left centre back. The perfect signing for me would have been Joshua Gvardiol last year. I'm gutted he went to City. He was the perfect answer for Liverpool, really, with the system that we're starting to play. But I think someone like Lukaber comes in, he can get minutes when Van Dijk's rested. He can get minutes in the right centre-back role. I think because he's so good with both feet, you could probably give him minutes as a left-back, but playing when we go on the attack. Obviously, we do drop into a back three, so I think he'd suit that aspect of it as well. Loads of people on the polls for it, loads. Well, Pacho, I don't really rate him. I think he's good, but I don't think he's Liverpool Premier League challenging for titles and Champions League good, to be fair. Whereas Lukaku's, he's like when we went and got Konate and everyone wanted Upamecano, Konate was the better centre back at Leipzig. And I think Lukaku's come in and he's made a stake as their best centre back for me. And just the fact he can play both positions, that points at me more. And I think transfer market have gotten down as being worth about 50 million. So we're talking the same price as Leny Yoro, but he's played in a better league, in my opinion. He's had Champions League experience at a good side as well. And yeah, I would probably say he was best than Pacho myself, to be fair. I think just for the ball, for suiting Liverpool Football Club, I think Lukaku suits us more than Pacho because he's got the characteristics that we look for in a centre-back. And I've just seen John's comment about only bringing in any players from final. I really rate their centre-back as well, but it's not really a philosophy that Liverpool managers have to go and raid former clubs. So I can't see. The only person I really want him to go and get from final is Shaquille Van Persie's son, because he is a baller. We need to get him before anyone else does. But if he did go and get someone, that's who I'd like us to get. But for me, it's Lukaku or like what Paul said. I know you mentioned it before we come on, Richie, about Scalvini. I think they're the two I'd be targeting because I want someone who can come in, and if Van Dijk did have an injury, you haven't got an 18-year-old and you're like, oh, what's happening here? I do rate Yoro. I think he's going to be world class, but I think he needs more seasons in professional football, which for the same price you can get that from Lukaku.
Yeah, you mentioned Paul Smith stole my thunder because he was the one I was going to bring to the table. And I'm glad because it just means I'm not the only one yet. But Giorgio Scalvini from Atalanta was absolutely immense, not just in the Europa Cup final, but he's been immense all season. Again, yeah, the thing is he's right-footed, right? But Mark Guehi's right-footed, and I proper rate him as a left centre-back. I'm not saying that he's perhaps Liverpool standard. I did think that he should have been last season. This season, he's gone under the radar a little bit. I thought he was better last season. He's had a bit of a poor season. But now, with Palace really on the wrong patch into their new manager, I'm expecting Guehi to kick on and do really well. I do really rate Guehi. But Scalvini, yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Like smashes the stats, smashes the eye test. And, for me, it's always difficult when it comes to Italian players coming over to the Premier League. Only one Italian has ever won the Premier League. I don't think there's any Italians in the current Man City squad. I know that was true for last year. And that's Mario Balotelli, So Italians don't... Jorginho's never won the Premier League.
I thought he might have won with Chelsea. Mad that.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's ever won the Premier League. I know that last season there was only ever Balotelli, unless there's not an Italian player, is there, in the Man City squad? So, but anyway, Scalvini, really good player. Again, you're looking at a 6'4", 6'5" centre back. Again, it's the tackles though that does it for me in the 90th percentile. Tackles, interceptions, take-ons, progressive passes in the 90th percentile. So again, what we were saying earlier about we want our centre-backs to be moving forwards. His successful take-ons, 94th percentile. They're absolutely through the roof. When you're looking at the stats market, but also, you're also passing the eye test too. He is a player, I think, that is going to hit the world by storm. But that being said, not many Italians, young Italians anyway, leave Serie A. They will tend to go to the Inter Milans of the world. He's obviously already there, but or Juventus or the big clubs. So again,
well, I'm going to butcher his name now. I'm just checking. He does play left and right centre back. That Zarbani for Bournemouth.
Zabani. I really liked him actually. Yeah, the Ukrainian. Yeah.
Very, very, very good. And transfer mark, I've got him down about 28 mil, which we could probably get him for a decent price off Bournemouth, but I rarely rate him. He's 21, well experience. I think someone like him would be I think with people need to realise with Michael Edwards being in and Ward, we're going to go and buy players who you wouldn't expect. Like, I remember when we signed Salah, uproar. Look what happened there. Robertson,
Mane too.
Mane. Like, the amount of players that we'll go and buy and people think, what, he's not going to improve us, and then they go on to improve us. I don't think we'll be looking at players in your 50, 60, 70 million pound price range. I think Michael Edwards works more savvy than that. Yeah, he spent big on Alisson and Van Dijk. I can't see him going and blowing the pace at a centre back. Really, I think he'll have a budget and he'll probably work under it. To be fair, that's just how he works. And I think someone like Zabarnyi, or however you say it, I think he's got more potential, or like an Antonio Silva from Benfica. I think they're the signings Liverpool would look at, where you can probably go and get them for 20, 30 million. And people will be like, oh, why have we got him? We should have got Pacho. We should have got this. We should have got that. And then he'll come in and boss it. So I think we're all probably miles off with who we will get. But yeah, I wouldn't mind Zabarnyi from Bournemouth, to be fair, or Antonio Silva from Benfica. I think he's fantastic as well.
Yeah, Zabarnyi, like for Dynamo Kiev, was one of those kids who was like, yeah, he's going to go places. And I was really shocked he went to Bournemouth, if I'm honest. And I'm not disrespecting Bournemouth at all, because whatever it is, it is. But I did think, wow, they've got an absolute player on their hands. And it has proven as such as well. Bournemouth aren't giant killers, but every time I've seen him, he's really impressed me. And yeah, I think that's a really good shout as well. Colin, you mentioned one Nico Schlotterbeck, and you're quite excited to talk about him. So the floor is yours.
Yeah. If we were looking for someone who is like a ready-made, I think, Van Dijk heir apparent, I think he's the one. He already plays in the two. I think is defensively good enough to do all the things that you ask of. Still, young enough profile, but it's spent a lot of time with Mats Hummels now, and like he's positive in a complimentary way to whomever he's playing with, that I think is like so important for center backs. And just is covering it, covering in the right moments when Hummels needs it, or Hummels is able to read his movements, and he's able to progress the ball forward a lot. I think he's, again, if that's who Liverpool are looking for, is this kind of like mid-20s, like ready-made first team player, then to me he's the one. Dortmund, notoriously impossible to do business with, unless you're kind of willing to just pay what they're going to ask. I think it could be possible, and given the amount of money that we've kind of showed our hand, that if the right player's there, Liverpool will splash the cash. So not the budget option, not to what Maddie was saying. I think the much likelier scenario is someone you probably have not heard of. Someone who is like, whose stats are, all dark green and no reds anywhere in those stat packs. And that you've probably, not watched them play. I think that person is much more likely. But if we're buying a Rolls Royce, he's the one I want.
Like an Endo. Didn't ever see it come in, but actually for, I'd say 75%, 80% of the season, oh my God, I'm so glad that we got him.
For 15 million, 15 million is like, is unbelievable business for what he's offered to the team, and what I think can continue to offer throughout the rest of his contract, which is he's not, he is not the person who is, who's going to probably lead your midfield into Champions League finals. But like when the season is getting tough, like he will carry the water. Like he will do all of the hard work. He will not complain about it. He will bring a positive attitude, and it's like just a great professional. And for like the amount of money, it's like unbelievable business. But I think you're absolutely spot on with that. Like that to me is much more likely of someone who we might get, rather than a big, fancy, shiny new car.
Yeah, and like Matty said as well earlier, it doesn't happen too often that Liverpool do splash the cast, and I do think there's a couple of issues that we do need to address. Obviously, that left hand side of defence, the left back, if Costas goes, I think he probably will, and the defensive midfield too, and then obviously who knows what's going to happen with Salah on that right hand side. So there is a big rebuild going on. It's not as if we just need a centre back and a goalkeeper like we did when we splashed it all for Alisson and Van Dijk. We do have to spread those funds quite carefully. And, for me, I completely trust what Edwards, Hughes, Ward, I completely trust what all of them are going to do. I think it's really telling, actually, that Arne Slot's position was that he's a first-team coach and not manager. He is to coach these players to be better. The first one in Liverpool's history not to be named as a manager. I'm really excited actually now about Arne Slot. I think I'll never get over Klopp leaving. I don't think Matty or Colin or anyone else will in the FC transfer room. Not for a while anyway, because he, is the modern day Bill Shankly. But at the same time, it's one of those that, okay, Arnie's in. He knows what the job is. He knows what shoes he's got to fill. And I think that he knows the players that he needs to bring in, and that does start with the defence.
I think with Slot, well, a lot of our fan base need to give this fella time. Like, fans on Twitter are so different to genuine Liverpool fans, and a lot of players depart and have said that when Alden comes to mind. And like all the fans giving Darwin, he's not been great, but there's no need to go and threaten him and stuff. But I think with Slot, for me, I know we're Liverpool Football Club and we should be challenging on all fronts every year. But we're in a massive transition. We're talking about the whole backroom team's left. So we're transitioning a whole new backroom team in. So the players are already there, learning new methods, new philosophies, new ideas. This season, if Liverpool get Champions League football again, maybe a domestic cup under the belt, and have a good run in the Champions League, like quarterfinals, something like that, I wouldn't be upset. I think he needs to be given time. And Klopp said that because I think he knows a lot of our fans will be very quick to jump on this fella's back. It's not going to be as good as it was with Klopp, because even when it was bad with Klopp, it was still fun, weren't it? Like, it was still, Klopp, Liverpool. But I think with Slot, fans need to give him that time. I really, really hope he just gets a few wins under his belt at the start of the season to ease that pressure. If we lose a few games to start the year, the fans will be right on his back, and it's not the right way to go about it. I think we need to trust the club. Although Jurgen Klopp was probably the most sought after manager when we did get him, it was the right decision from FSG to bring him in. I think the fact Jurgen Klopp spoke highly about Slot as well gave me a lot of confidence in him, that he has got the potential to go on and be a fantastic manager at us. But I think we need to give him that time. He's not going to come in and win the Premier League in his first season, I don't think. He's not going to come in and win the Champions League in his first season, but neither did Jurgen Klopp. It took Jurgen Klopp a few years to go on and win the big honours that we've always wanted. So don't get me wrong, if you're deep into your second season and you're still just challenging for fourth, then yeah, you probably would look. But I think he needs to be given time. He needs to be given at least a season to instill his methods and his ideologies. We're talking about and replacing a manager who's been there for 9 years. So there's players like Trent who've never played any other system other than a Jurgen Klopp system. It's going to take time for these players, even the academy lads, they all play how Jurgen wanted them to play. It's going to take time for things to adjust. And I think a lot of our fans need to just understand to give the fella time. If we don't give him time, it's not going to work. And the fans need to be behind him from day one if we want to succeed under him, really.
And what we don't want is this transfer merry-go-round that Chelsea and Tottenham have fallen into. And if rumours are to be true, the manager just won the FA Cup today, is set to be sacked tomorrow. Which, if that happens, is just beyond bonkers for me. But we can't be. I generally don't think we will be a club under FSG that has a transfer merry-go-round and a circus going on and on and on. Because let's face it, I generally don't think there's that many great managers out there at the moment. You've got your Pep, you've got your Klopp, and that's about it in terms of elite. And then you've got your upcoming managers like Xabi, who's already said that he's going to stay.
I'd put Ancelotti in that elite bracket as well. Mate.
100%. Sorry, yeah, that was but I know that he's looking to step down, isn't he? He's never going to come to Liverpool or a different club. I think maybe he could go international if he wanted to do it again, but yeah, Ancelotti 100% is in that elite club too. And then you're edging on the peripheries of your Thomas Tuchel and Pochettino's, I think, where they could come in and do a good job. And Tuchel's record is pretty spot on, won the Champions League, but at the same time, Chelsea didn't give him time. We've seen what happened to Bayern, you know, that unbroken streak, finishing third in the end, not even in a cup final. Some might blame Harry Kane. But, you know, there's not that many out there. Liverpool fans 100% have to be patient. And you know what's funny? We are in the same position this year as what we were last year after the horror show of what was last season. We just want top four. We just want top four. It's only the fact that we're in a title charge that was stamped out, you know, towards the last 5 or 6 games. If we would have all taken top four, and the Carabao Cup being a bonus, you know, and I think we're in the same position and the same boat under Slot right now, if I'm honest, Colin. And, you know, I don't know what your expectations are, but I would like to say, like Matty said, I do think unless, listen, Slot might come in and hit the ground running. He does inherit a good squad. He does inherit a team that is not a Sir Alex team when he left and it was in decline. I do think he's inheriting a squad that is a lot better than what he would have perhaps inherited 2 years ago. But at the same time, this man, like, surely he needs time and patience. And if the top brass at Liverpool, who brought in Jurgen Klopp, can trust him after 8 years of what Klopp did, I do think that fans need to be a little bit patient too.
Don't you think it's a profound and distinct advantage that we have as Liverpool versus Chelsea or United, though? You know, we like the background staff has known about this transition for months. Regardless of when we knew who exactly it was, that started, you know, the moment Jurgen made the announcement video that he'd be leaving. Chelsea are without a manager. United are apparently and probably without a manager. Even like in world football, like Bayern Munich without a manager, kind of, maybe, sort of.
Barcelona, the merry-go-round that is Barcelona as well.
Like there are tons and tons of teams who you would say are in or around Liverpool's, you know, the level of the club, who are all worse off, in my mind, than we are, even with a manager who, to everybody's point, and this is true, like, is an unproven Premier League manager. Of course he is. He has not met. He's still, you know, relatively young. He's not had charge of a team who's played the kind of schedule that Liverpool will play, and that have the expectations that Liverpool will, and that's all true. All true. Our, like, closest, we would think, generally rivals outside of City and Arsenal are, in my mind, all worse off than us. I think the argument can be made for Villa, you know, are not worse off than us. Like, everybody else is going to have a harder transition than we are. We already have the manager. We already have the backroom staff has already all been replaced. We know what our transfer targets are going to be. Both of those clubs specifically are going to get a manager in, and they're going to be scrambled. Their last, like, month of the transfer window is going to be unbelievable madness. And I don't see a benefit to that. If that was happening to Liverpool, I would be very scared that we're picking the wrong people, or we don't have a good succession plan. I feel very assured in the process that we've gone through, and understanding, to your guys' points, that, like, it's probably, the likelihood is it's not going to be perfect out of the gate. It's going to be a little bit of a growing pains. It's going to be tricky at times. And like, I'm ready to go on that journey. But I just know that, like, the way that we've gone about this is so much better than some other club, some other Premier League clubs. Like, it's not been good, I think, for them in particular.
Yeah, and Slot also fits the Klopp style. You know, he's got the pressing system. He loves attacking. Yeah. He likes, you know, the direct football, and he likes progressive play. You know, he was picked on the basis that actually the lads don't need to do a lot more to change their style and to change their system. I'm really interested. I know we're talking about centre backs, but I am interested to see what he does with Trent Alexander-Arnold next year. Whether he sticks with that inverted right back role. This is a whole different. Again, we don't need to go into it because you lads want to go off and enjoy your evening, and the 4,000 people nearly watching us. Thank you so much. This is a different conversation for another day, but I just think whilst talking about the defence, it's so interesting what Arne Slot's going to come and do, not just with the centre backs, but with the wing backs too, / inverted fullback / right back / fullback. It's just going to be really interesting to see what they do. We've been going for over an hour tonight, and there are nearly 4,000 of you viewing us. So thank you so much. If you haven't already, give us a like and a subscribe to the channel, and it does go a long way. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you all for the comments. I wish we could get through all of them. I wish we could put all of them up on there. But again, there's just so many nowadays. It's great, and it's fantastic to see. Matty, Colin, any last words at all from either of you before I cut you off on that button?
Up the Jocks and the Euros.
Oh.
I don't have anything better than that.
No, Colin.
Great to be with you.
As a non-European, who are you going to be following in the Euros? Bearing in mind that more Liverpool players represent England than anybody else.
Yeah, England's the one. They're so similar, I think, in so many ways to the United States, which is to say that we've got a manager which the entire fan base hates. Definitely underperforming for what is the potential. Yeah, I really like, watching the Liverpool players. Rooting for them is easiest. I've always got an eye on the Germany team, but we'll see if I can have as successful a betting Euros as I did last time. Last time I was on a heater. We'll see.
Yeah, make sure you share those slips then with us all. Then, if you were on a good one, make sure you
anyone
share those slips.
To be fair, Richie, I don't want England. I don't want England to even win a throw-in. Never mind the Euros. But anyone but the French, to be fair. I'd like Germany to do it, to be honest. But then if Germany do it, Klopp probably doesn't get them for the World Cup. So it's like a catch-22. I think Scotland will go far, though. I think Scotland are going to beat England in the group, honestly.
Oh.
And though is that defence move on.
Is Scotland and Germany? They're in the same group, aren't they? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I'm looking forward to seeing Florian Wirtz. I think Germany, Musiala. Obviously, we've got Schlotterbeck as well in there. They've got Kai Havertz, who's done quite well. So, yeah, I think Germany would be a bit of a dark horse, actually.
I think England should win it.
They should, but they won't.
Will I go under a rock if they do? 100%. I don't want it.
And that's just from me, isn't it?
from the world, I think. What was fun? What was boss though was in the last Euros seeing the city of Liverpool celebrating Italy winning. That was funny. So I'd like to see that again. But I'm genuinely supporting the Scots, and that's not just to be biased because of England. It's just more. My granddad was Scottish, so I'm going to support my granddad's country.
Yeah. And listen, England should 100% win it with the squad that they've got. I don't think anyone would deny that. France maybe, but I still think that England's squad itself is far stronger, in terms of depth. But I have zero faith, I'm afraid, in Gareth Southgate. And I as much as I'd love to see the midfield of Rice, Bellingham, Foden, I can guarantee after today he plays Rice, Mainu and Bellingham with Foden out on the left, which is an absolute waste. For me, Foden was the best player in the Premier League this season. And there's a reason why, because he played in that midfield 10 floating position. And Southgate won't trust him to do that.
I agree with Henry. I'd like the Netherlands to win it. I don't want Josses to win it purely because it means Cristiano Ronaldo wins the Euros again. And again, don't want him to win a throw-in. Team Messi for me. But the Netherlands would be a nice side to win it, to be fair. Just for Gakpo and Verge and Gravenberch. Yeah, I do.
I think Genie's in there, isn't he? Is Genie in there too?
Oh yeah. I'd like Holland to do it. I like the people. I like the Dutch people, to be fair.
Yeah, me too.
Anyone but the French, because they can all eat shit.
Eat it.
Yeah.
Just imagine the scenes when Mainu starts over Trent.
I think he will. He will, 100%. Trent will be the backup to Walker. Yeah. No, Trent will be the backup to Walker.
He's listed as a
I'm
midfielder
okay
on
with
the
that.
Trent's in the midfielder group.
And he plays him as a 10 for England. I think he'd be mad to not play him. I think England, if they didn't have Gareth Southgate as the manager, he probably would be lethal. But that's why I'm team give Gareth Southgate a lifetime contract.
Yeah, much like we are with Sepp Haag as well. Sepp Haag. Hope you don't get sacked tomorrow. Right. Thank you all for joining us and for the break-in. Over 4,000 of you as well. And like I've said, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Please do give the channel a like, and thank you all so much for joining us on this Saturday night. We will be here and live with you most nights up until, well, forever, really, up until we get closed down, I suppose. Which probably won't be anytime soon unless Matty or Colin do anything silly. But yeah, we'll be here throughout the transfer window, and now's the busy time as well. So be sure that you do give us a like and a subscribe, turn your notifications on. And as always, up the Reds, no matter if it's the off season or not. Take care. God bless.